Hello, everyone. Um, didn't report this last time, even though um, before. This happened before the last time I spoke, and I just hadn't heard of it yet. But um, was very serious thing that happened. Man in a car ran into a group of people in Uptown Minneapolis. He just rammed his car right into the crowd, and a woman died. Um, Very sad that a young woman died and that this man ran his car into the crowd of protesters. They were protesters. They were protesting um, probably something to do with George Floyd, or maybe one of the others, maybe Dante Wright, one of the others. They were protesting the death by police brutality of one of these individuals, and the this man that didn't like protesters and didn't like the protesters being there, being in his way, ran his car right into the crowd, killed a woman. Now, Jacob Fry's response to this is to put up barricades and to try to get rid of the protesters, redirect the flow of protesters, and allow cars through. He says the cars absolutely must go through. So basically, Jacob Fry is taking the side of the guy that did this with his car and killed someone, because cars kill people. But if you get in your way, it's your tough luck. Sorry, Charlie. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you got in the way of my car, so I just couldn't help killing you. I just couldn't help running my car into you and killing you. So we have to let the traffic through. Traffic has the right of way. Traffic has first priority, even though the people in the cars can kill you, right? Even though the people in the cars can kill you, and you can't kill them back unless you have a gun, which you don't. Even though the people, well, you might have a gun, but I don't know how many people bring guns to protests. A few bring their guns to a protest, but people in the cars can kill you. You can't kill them. So naturally, the people who can kill you should have the right of way, right? Does that make any sense? It doesn't make much sense to me. I'm a pedestrian most of the time, and I don't like people who can kill me having the right of way. Just because they can kill me, they get the right of way. And then they feel entitled. They get this sense of entitlement because there's a mind behind these cars. There's a human mind directing these cars. So their idea is, hey, I have the right of way. That means that if you get in my way, in any circumstances, or even if I just don't like the looks of your face, I'm entitled to kill you because I can. Because I have a lethal weapon. I have a car. I have a lethal weapon, which is a car, so I'm entitled to kill you. That's the way these drivers feel. I think Fry took the wrong approach and made the wrong response to this. I'm calling it. I'm calling his bluff, calling Mayor Jacob Fry's bluff. I don't think he's going to last. He's gone against all the protesters and everything people wanted, and no one's happy with him at all. Everyone blames him for what happened. No one is happy with him at all. I don't think he's going to last another term. I think he's going to get voted right out of office. He's gone. Jacob Fry is gone. But this is terrible. Obviously, the person who did it either wanted to have the right of way. It was just a reckless driver. Just a reckless driver that wanted to have his way all the time. That's the way these reckless drivers are. They want to have their way all the time. And they feel they have the right of way, and they have the right to kill you physically, bodily, do bodily harm, or injure you, or kill you because you got in the way of their vehicle. Or This guy could be a conservative. That's the other possibility. He's not just a reckless driver, that he was a conservative, that he didn't like the protesters, so he was using his car as a weapon to kill protesters. And if the latter is the case, then we need to have a serious talk, because there's good things about conservatives and there's bad things about conservatives. And this guy, you could say this guy, it wasn't a true conservative if he was killing people, because no true conservative, right? But that's like the no true Scotsman argument. No true Scotsman would do this. No true conservative would do this. Politics can go too far. Let's just face it, politics can go too far. People can be driven crazy by their politics. Politics drives people crazy. There's a lot of nut cases out there, a lot of nut jobs that are inspired by politics out there, okay? Let's just face it. There are nut jobs out there who are inspired by politics to do crazy things and break the law and hurt other people, okay? And when conservatives go too far, and they veer into hurting people, killing people, because of hate of the other side, where it veers into hatred, and you actually hate liberals because you don't know any liberals and they're the enemy. When you don't know any liberals and liberals are the enemy, and you're full of hate for liberals and you want to kill, you've gone too far. Let's face it, you've gone too far. You've gone too far if you veer into hatred, into wanting to kill another human being who has as much right to live as you do, just because you don't agree with their political views and you don't like them, and you don't like them protesting, and you disagree with them. That's hate. And what beautiful young woman had a right to live? She had a chance to live, and somebody killed her. She died at a protest. That was for the last day of her life. She spent the last day of her life at a protest. She died for her cause because somebody killed her, because, well, we don't know, but we think she died because she was a protester, because a conservative didn't like her. So this is a terrible thing. This is a very sad issue. Recently, another suburb, can't remember what town, there was a woman who was assaulted. She was sexually assaulted. There was a guy on a bike, and he happened to be African American, she happened to be white. And she was headed toward a bike path. He followed her onto the bike path and sexually assaulted her, and then escaped on his bike. And just nothing to say about that, except that these things keep happening. And they're not helping things at all. They're not helping race relations at all. And race relations have reached an all-time low. That may have been why he did it. There's a lot of anger of African Americans toward white Americans, and Democrats have been stirring the pot and stirring these racial tensions, and apparently they've been successful. They've been successful at stirring racial tensions, and it works both ways. You know, white people hear about this, they get mad at African Americans, and then they retaliate. They have ways of retaliating other than sexual assault or committing a crime or holding you up with a gun. Yes, they do. They have ways and ways of getting even with you. They can deny you a job. They can deny you a place to live. They can discriminate against you on a job if they've already hired you. There's things that white people can do to hurt African Americans, and they do. They do those things. Even Some of them even burn crosses on people's front lawns, but I won't get into that. So I recommend not, even if you're angry, not retaliating and not doing these things to white people, because there's going to be a backlash. It's going to be a backlash, and people are going to be mad at you. They're going to be angry at you. They're going to be hurting inside and want to get even. When people are hurting inside, and all people are alike, all people are the same inside. People are hurting inside, and you can understand this. Somebody did this to you, you'd want to retaliate too. When you're hurting inside, you just want to get even. And some people do. So, may have been a hate crime. May have been a hate crime against this white woman, this black man sexually assaulting her. He was very young. He was like 17 or 18 years old. He was a young guy. And was mad, obviously, at white people, but he picked a target, and he did it. There's a lot of anger out there, but in another sense, on some level, maybe he was sexually attracted to this white woman. A lot of African American men becoming more and more attracted. They're becoming more and more attracted to white women. Like, for the example, the other day, black man saw me, and he called me a sweet fatty and told me to come to him, and was sexually attracted to me, but was also trying to get even at the same time, because he called me sweet fatty, and he should have known that I wouldn't like that at all. Trying to get even with sex, and kids in school do that. That's like that's back to junior high. Okay, kids in junior high used to use sex to get even with people. Okay, they use sex as a weapon. Sex became a weapon to get even with a person by coming on. It was an unwanted advance, and it was unpleasant, and they know that it's an unpleasant, unwanted advance. That's why they do it. Sex becomes a weapon. So, and that's sexual harassment. That's what it is. It's sexual harassment. But apparently on some level they're attracted to the person. It's not nice. It is not nice at all. It's so unpleasant. Yeah, you can be sexually harassed in junior high or middle school. You can be sexually harassed at that age. It's not too early to be sexually harassed. It's never too early to be sexually harassed. I mean, look how boys tease girls on the playground. Nothing sexual, but they like to point out their bodies to them, call them fat. And even if they're thin, they call them fat, just to be mean. And they torment girls endlessly, ceaselessly. They are always tormenting girls. And it's because boys at that age can have a crush. They can like girls. But they have a nasty, mean-spirited way of expressing it because they've got corrupt spirits. They're born corrupt. It just can't be helped. That's what this place is for. This place is for reforming corrupted spirits. So they come into life corrupt. It's not Adam and Eve or some inheritance, or it's not of the flesh. It's not an inheritance of the flesh. It's a thing of the spirit. So, just remember that these things do not help. These things do not help anyone, okay? Their only objective is to hurt. And the only objective is hate. The only objective is hate. The only reason to do these things is hate. And the only result is more hate. More hate against people of your persuasion. More hatred against your cause. A backlash. And it doesn't help anyone. It ruins the reputation of anyone who agrees with you. So, for example, this conservative that ran his car into the crowd and killed this young woman. People are going to hate conservatives because of that. It's going to increase the hate. And it makes conservatives look bad. It ruins their reputations. And could say, well, yeah, this was a lone wolf. It was a one-off deal. But the things you say can inspire these guys to do these things. When you don't have a fair and balanced approach, that's what happens. Another thing is that, for example, this young black man that was so angry at white people because like I said, liberals have been stirring the pot, and they've been stirring racial tensions and racial hatreds. And he's just a young man, so he's very easily influenced, very easily led astray to do these things. That doesn't help African Americans at all. In fact, it hurts them. It hurts them every which way. Just one thing like this, just one incident like this, can have repercussions for years to come. People see this happen, they think a certain way about, they generalize. It's not right. It's not right to generalize, but people do it anyway. They generalize about African Americans. They say, why do these things keep happening? Why do these things keep happening? Why do white women keep getting sexually assaulted by black men? Well, black men just, they can't control themselves. They're so sexual, and they can't keep their hands off of white women, and so we're not going to hire them, or we're not going to give them a place to live where they want to live. And that happens. That happens. It's not right. It's not fair, and it isn't good, but it happens. So, each of you, no matter what your race, has a grave personal responsibility not to do these things. Because it does affect, whether right or wrong, whether fair or not fair, it affects your race. It affects your political persuasion, people of your political persuasion. It affects your people. And it can't be denied that it affects your people. It just does. I have been doing lots of research recently into astrology. My interest in astrology has deepened since I made my video about the Age of Fire. I've been researching it more, researching astrology more, and specifically researching Vedic astrology. The interesting thing is that with Vedic astrology, all the signs that you know move one sign backwards. So the age of Aquarius, the Aquarius that seems so harsh, Aquarius that seems so disruptive and brash and awful, becomes Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is a hard karma and a hard taskmaster, and that fits more with the current definition of Aquarius than the old definition of Aquarius. Okay, it really does. It really does fit more. Because if Aquarius becomes Capricorn, it makes sense, because Saturn is the planet of hard karma. That would make sense that a person would lose their minds, become homeless, all sorts of bad things happen to them because of Capricorn, because it's ruled by Saturn. And you may or may not believe this, but like, for example, in Vedic astrology, Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius, which in Western is the sign of Pisces. They say Aquarius is very kind. Aquarius is a very kind sign, very gentle, very humanitarian, cares about others, is nice. That sounds more like a Pisces, right? But they say that about Aquarius because they use the sidereal astrology. They use where the sign, they call it Ayanamsa. The sign moves one backwards. And for to say that Aquarius is disruptive, loud, harsh, brash, can be uncaring, insensitive, shocking. All of those things could apply to Capricorn because of the rulership of Saturn. And so it makes sense. It makes sense. And I've met some Capricorns and they don't seem loud, harsh, brash, shocking at all. That's because they're really Sagittarians. See how that works? And people that you think of as Sagittarians would be not Capricorns. Sagittarians would be Scorpios. Scorpios would be Libras, and so on. Why do you think it is that a lot of times Western doesn't seem to make sense? And you disbelieve in astrology because Western doesn't make sense, and there's a lot of things that don't make sense. I mean, they in the West, they tell, you Leos, you have such a big ego, and you're so self-absorbed, and you're in love with yourselves, and you're in love with each other, and you're this and you're that. And it's like, what are you talking about? I'm nothing like that. I don't have a big ego. I'm self-effacing, if anything, and because you're a Cancerian, right? It makes sense, right? So, leave you with that. So just something to think about. Maybe there is some validity to Vedic astrology after all. Maybe it's a better system, possibly. So the original meanings of the signs have been corrupted by Western astrology, by going by the months of the year, keeping them the same for centuries and even millennia, keeping them the same for millennia while the earth shifts and the constellations are out of place. So that's it. Remember, what you do affects your race and your people. There is group karma, and things that these one-offers do affect everyone because they were affected by the things they heard and the things that they said, that other people said. And they did these things because of the things that they heard and the things that other people said. And so there is such a thing as group karma in that sense. Things that you say and do affect mentally ill and criminal minds. And also the things that you do affect your whole group. So remember that your behavior is very important. It's very important to you to represent your people well.